Well, hello, my stamping friends. It's Monday Night Live with Ann, the Stamp Maven. How are you guys doing tonight? Has it been a good Monday? Well, I hope it has been, but even if it's been a challenging day, we are going to have some fun tonight. I have got what I think is the cutest little project for you tonight. This is a mini jam jar, and it is made with these new plastic jars. They come in this cool box here. Now, this doesn't look like a cool box like this, but once we're done with all of these little jam jars, this inside will fit cards perfectly. So I am going to come out with something to use this box. And when I do, of course, I'll turn it into a Facebook Live. Now, one of the best things about these jars is they are totally plastic and they are food safe. If you are into canning, you could can some peaches or make some peach jam. All of the stuff that I'm going to use tonight is part of the You're a Peach suite that's found on page 60 and 61 of the new catalog. This suite is only $57.25, and you get this pack of gorgeous designer series paper, 12 pieces, double-sided. We're going to use a couple of them tonight. I think the peaches in this paper totally look good enough to eat. We're going to also use the Sweet as a Peach stamp set and the peach dies. I'll show you the ones that we're going to use in a little bit. Hey, Fran, how are you doing tonight? Now, when I first saw these lids, these jam jars and the lid, I'm thinking, the projects in the catalog, how did they get this lid to, the paper to cover it perfectly so that it fit fine? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. So let's get started. Okay, let me bring in my jar here. So the first thing we're going to do is I picked this pattern, and we need a strip that is 8 inches by 1 1/4 inches. Then what we need to do is we need to bring in our tear and tape. Now I'm going to bring in my silicone mat because I want to do my tear and tape on this mat because it won't stick if I happen to get it in the wrong place. Now, this particular paper, I don't have to worry about the pattern. It would work either way. But I do want to make sure that I get my tear and tape basically on the wrong side because I want my pretty peaches to show. I'm going to put a piece of the tear and tape on one end, and then I'm going to put another piece in the middle, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then I'm going to put one more piece here on the end. I love our tear and tape because it really does just tear. Now, I like to take my bone folder and Just make sure it's stuck down there really well. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bone folder and I'm going to just curl this paper. You know, I probably should have shown you that before I put on the tear and tape, but it really doesn't matter. Now, see how this curls? It's going to be great when we go to put it around our jar. So now I'm going to bring in my little piercing tool that will help me get the edge here. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I need to just use my nails, and sometimes I pick it off with the piercing tool and it helps. Okay. This did not help, so I'm going to use my nail. However you get it off there is fine. There we go. And we'll do this piece down here. Now, I find it easiest to just go ahead and take off my paper. If you want to do it one piece at a time as you're wrapping, that is just fine. Now, you may not be able to see this on the camera, but there is a line, a seam right here, probably where they put the jar together. That is actually where I'm going to start my paper. So I'm going to line that right up, and then all I'm going to do is go around here and secure this paper. Now, the reason I put the piece in the middle is I want it to lay flat. And I found if you just put it on the two ends, it won't lay flat. You'll have a little bit of a pucker. And we don't want that. So, all right, there we've got that part down. Okay, so next thing we are going to do is we are going to take our lid and we're going to prepare the lid. I am going to take a piece of my tear and tape. I'm going to put that right on the top, and then I'm going to take my tear and tape and I'm going to put it around right on the top of the lid. Okay, and it's so easy to work with this tear and tape. It goes right around on the lid. Hey Maria, I'm glad you could pop in tonight. I hope you guys are going to like this project. I just think it is the cutest. All right, so I've got that on here, and let me get it off my hand. And, you know, I see here that I got it up a little bit more than I wanted. So I'm going to come right back in here, and I'm just going to redo it. That's the neat thing about this tear and tape. You can get it exactly where you want it to be. Now, we're going to set this aside for just a minute. Now, we need our piece to make our lid. So I am actually, when I put this on, I do not want these two the same pattern together. So I'm going to have the green on there. How I made this piece, I used the largest scallop die from our Layering Circles dies. If you don't have these dies, this is a great tool. We used to have the ovals and the squares, but they've done away with the squares and the ovals. We have a great oval punch, but these circles, I use these all the time. So again, you're just going to run it through your die cut. I used a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square, and then that is a perfect size. You won't have much waste. Run it through and voila, we have our circle. Okay, now what we need to do is we are going to get this circle prepared. Now, I think I'm going to show you something that is so awesome. You're not going to believe it. So, you need your bone folder. We're going to take this scallop circle, and I'm going to go all around, starting from the inside out, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with that strip. The reason you do this, I don't think I told you that on the strip. It's to break down the fibers in this and make it easier to work with. Okay, now you ready for coolness? Okay, who knows what this little guy is? It is a Stampin' Spritzer. You can do all sorts of fun things with this. Tonight, I just have it filled with water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this scalloped circle. I am not going to drench it. I just want it to be damp. And you're going to see why here in a minute. So I'm just going to spray this, and then I'm going to feel it as I go along. Okay, that's pretty good. It's kind of dry right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that to where it is just damp. Okay, I need a little bit more here. All right, I think that is good. All right, now remember, this is going to be my outside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this sticky strip that I have put on the lid. Now I am going to, hopefully I can do this without getting my head in the middle. I'm going to push this down so that it is centered, okay? And then you've got this piece on the back. Next, I'm going to remove this sticky strip all the way around my lid. And if it works right, I'll get it right on this little piece, and I'll get it all the way off. Woohoo, it worked. Okay, now, here's where the trick comes in. We are going to take our finger, and we are going to go up here, and then we're going to go from the center, and we are going to go down. Okay, do you see what we've ended up with there? You're going to press in to make sure that's stuck down. We are going to turn it now, so we've got this piece on the sides, and we're going to do the same thing on the front. Up and down. Okay, then we've got these little corners left. We're going to turn it just a little bit. We're going to push that down, and we're going to push it down here. You can use both your fingers if you want, or just use one. Now we have this one little spot left, and this one little spot left. Okay, now, see now how we have these little ends kind of pooching out. All we're going to do is we're going to go around, and we are going to flatten these. We're going to go around in our circle, and I want this one to go this way too. So all the way around. Now the cool thing about this is when these dry, they are going to stay down flat. So now we have our paper perfectly set on our lid. Isn't that the coolest thing? Okay, and then we would just put our lid on. Now, we've got our little stamped peach here, and this is where the next thing I'm going to show you how to get this yummy looking multicolored peach. Okay, I just love teaching things like this. You know, anybody can teach you how to ink up a stamp and stamp it, but I like to show you some fun new things. All right, let me bring in some samples I did ahead of time, and then we are going to stamp them so you can see how I did them. So my peach right here, I stamped right here with the pale papaya, and then I added my color, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute with my Calypso Coral. Now, if you look here on the stamp set, it is supposed to be a little bit blotchy. See how this is here? It's more realistic, I guess is the right word, and on these small ones here and the leaves. So when yours comes out like this, don't think you've made a mistake or that your stamp is defective, because it's not. And then here are the leaves. This one I stamped just straight on in Pear Pizzazz. This one I stamped off with Pear Pizzazz. This I stamped off with Pear Pizzazz, then used some Mossy Meadow. And then this I off-stamped Pear Pizzazz Less Meadow. This one I actually used Soft Sea Foam and the Mossy Meadow. And these two I used Olive and the Mossy Meadow. Isn't it interesting how you get a totally different look? So now let's do some stamping so I can show you how to create these. All right, you'll need to use your piercing mat, or you can use a mouse pad, or you can also use the foam pad if you have the Stamparatus. Oh, I did want to show you one thing. This was a boo-boo I did. Do you ever make mistakes when you're stamping? I actually mounted this peach upside down on my block, so I was stamping with the wrong side of it. And that, you know, it looks okay, but it obviously doesn't look exactly like a peach. So we want it to look like a peach. So I'm going to open my Pale Papaya. That is one of our new ink colors. The in colors, and then I've got my Calypso Coral. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my peach using that Pale Papaya. Okay, that looks pretty good as a peach, right? However, watch. Here is where the magic comes in. I'm going to take my sponge dauber, and I'm going to ink it up with a little of my Calypso Coral. Then I'm just going to go down this side here, putting the ink right there on the right side, which will become the left side when I stamp. Okay, now, okay, that looks pretty good, but I don't like that as well as this next thing I'm going to show you. So we're going to clean that off with our Stampin' Chamois. Then you always want to clean it off because you don't want to get your Calypso Coral in your Pale Papaya. So now I'm going to do my Pale Papaya again. And this time I'm going to do it lighter. I'm going to just tap it, and I'm going to go over here and put on a little more of that ink. Let's see what that looks like. All right, that gives a totally different look. Now I want to show you one more. Okay, I'm going to ink up in my pale papaya. I'm going to stamp it off. Then I'm going to come in again with my Calypso Coral. And I'm just going to pop some around there. Okay. Now, that one I don't like as well because it looks like I have not stamped it correctly. So if I were going to do this one again, I still might off stamp, but I would put more of the color from the Calypso Coral in here. So this is the one that I like the best. So I've done one ahead of time that I'm going to show you because I think you all know how to use your die cut machine. So I wanted to use our time together a little bit more efficiently. Okay, now I'm going to show you about the leaves. All right, so let me get my peach off of here, close up my ink pads so we don't end up with color all over the place. Okay, now I liked, let me bring these back in. I actually liked doing the off stamp of the pear pizzazz and less meadow, but I want to show you actually stamping it so you can see one more time how I do that with my sponge. You could also use a one of our new blending brushes, or I actually said sponge, I meant sponge daubers, but you could use a little piece of the sponge. All right, so here we go. Here is our pear pizzazz, and if we just wanted to do it full strength or just stamping off and not adding any color, those are the three colors that you'd get. This is too dark for me. I'm not that partial to that one. So what I'm going to do is do it again. I'm going to off stamp here. Then I'm going to pick up our Mossy Meadow with my sponge. And I'm going to add some of that around the edges. All right, so can you see the difference there? Now I'm going to clean it off. And I'm going to stamp again in my pear pizzazz. 1, 2. Then it's going to be very light here. And I'm going to come back in with my Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to stamp that. Okay, that looks pretty cool. There's so many different ways you can do this. So what you can also do, let's try one more way and see what we think. Okay, I'm going to do the pear pizzazz, stamp off twice. Then I'm going to load up the Mossy Meadow, but I'm going to tap that off so it becomes pretty light. And then we're going to stamp again here. All right, what do you think? Which one do you like the best? You know, it's just so much fun, and you can do this technique with any stamp set. It works best with the solid ones. So now let me show you. Close these up. So what I did then is I just took This die from the peach set, I ran it through my Big Shot, or not my Big Shot, my Stampin' Emboss and Cut machine. And then I took the leaf die here and I did the same thing. This is what I ended up with. I took my Have a Peachy Day sentiment and I stamped that in Mossy Meadow. You could obviously stamp it on a tag if you want, but I wanted to have it right on this. Then the last thing that I would do to finish this off, I would use our Pale Papaya ribbon. And what I would do, I wanted to show you this little trick. If I can find my, here they are, my glue dots. Do you get paper pumpkin? You get a ton of glue dots, and you won't use them all in your paper pumpkin, I assure you. So I want to put my seam over here. So I want to make sure that I get my, well, that one didn't stick right. I want to get my little glue dot where I want it. Okay, then you're going to just turn it over and just leave it on the roll like this, and then you'll tie your bow. Okay, like a so, right? So you've got your bow here. And let me go ahead and get that tied. I hate tying bows on camera, but hey, maybe this one will work out like it's supposed to. Hey, not bad. Now, what I probably would do if I weren't doing this on camera is I would take the bow off and I would do it again so I had less left over. I don't want that much hanging down. And see, if you leave it on your spool, you can do that. And then you can retie it and snip it off. Whereas if you had rolled this all out and put it around using what you thought you'd need, then you'd have a lot of waste. Okay, so the last thing then to do is we're going to take some of our Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to use 3 because I want to make sure this stays on. I had just used my multi-purpose glue, which is this green glue here, and I just put a little on the peach, and then I put the leaves so they'd pop out. Okay, and then we'll just put that right here. We would snip this off, and look, we've got another little jam jar. It looks so stinking cute too. Our lid has dried down there, and it just looks like it fits perfectly. So last thing I wanted to remind you guys, if you live local to me, I live in Wiley, Texas. My retired Stampin' Up BOGO is this Saturday from 1 to 4 at my home in Wiley. I live at 3503 Lynn Court, Lynn. And I'm going to have so much retired stuff. You go through, you pick the retired stuff you want. My assistant or I will add it up. Let's say that value is $100. You get to take that stuff home free, and then you just spend $100 in one of our current catalogs. If you don't live close to me, or you're not going to be able to make it to BOGO, stay tuned to my newsletter in at the last, let's see, what am I saying? I'm tongue-tied. The last Tuesday of June, I will put out my newsletter and I'll give you all the details about my mystery boxes, which is a way you can get in on the retired stuff too. If you go to stampmaven.com, you can sign up for my newsletter there. If you have any questions, email me at ann@stampmaven.com. And I hope you enjoyed our project tonight. See you real soon.